imagine being a 6-year-old girl witnessing your family being murdered. Meanwhile, you're injured.
Stories of survival.
The path of the bullet probably entered like this, essentially took out the inside of the nose, the eyeball, and it came out through the temple.
Both of you have given this little girl a new life.
Stories of persistence. Today on The Doctors.
Doctor, give me the news.
Thank you. This is about a young girl from Afghanistan. Her family was killed by insurgents. She witnessed it. Her uncle is worried about retaliation. This is his hidden appearance as well as his altered voice telling their story.
What happened? How did Fatima sustain her injury?
The father loved taking her with him everywhere. He was coming home from work towards the house. 3-4 meters before they get to the house, the Taliban were hiding. They attacked them with Kalashnikov. He was wearing a long jacket, like one of those traditional things. So when he realized that there was some danger, he hid his daughter under his robe. They shot them in the car. Then they opened the car door to make sure they were dead. That's what she remembers. They think that maybe they were going to just use a knife to make sure, but instead they shot them again to make sure that they weren't breathing. The brother, 11 shots, both from waist up. 16 bullets hit her father, and one of them hit her.
How long was Fatima in that car with the bodies of her father and brother before someone was able to get her?
Oh, no, I don't. About 3 hours.
Did they know she was alive in there?
They didn't know, and they were also very scared to approach the car because if the Taliban had still been watching the car, they were scared to be hit. So they didn't know that she was actually alive.
The young girl that you saw in that piece, she also goes by Marzia. And I think her story is one where imagine being a 6-year-old girl witnessing your family being murdered. Meanwhile, you're injured. And her story, what's so remarkable about it is all the people that came together in the most philanthropic of ways to bring her to the United States to get her the surgery that she needed.
Just life-changing. I mean, to go from that bleeding in that car under your daddy's legs for 3 hours and then to just everybody around you is wiped out, to have everybody else come together and bring you here.
Well, that's it.
That's amazing.
Story combines the worst of what's in the world, war, and innocent bystanders, kids getting injured, and then the best in the world, people who don't have to, that on their own step forward to help somebody in need.
Basically a chance at a second chance and a better life, which is, you know, amazing.
And these stories, all of these are meant to teach us something, whether it be about health, hope, and we hope you watching today will take something away from it. We have just hearing about their stories from afar, and we're going to let you know the outcome of all of these stories throughout our show today, plus the best ways you can prepare for the unexpected when it may strike. Stick around.
Coming up next.
We bring children who've been wounded by war, and we bring them here, and we get medical help for them.
A young girl's amazing story of survival.
The path of the bullet probably entered like this, essentially took out the inside of the nose, the eyeball, and it came out through the temple.
And later.
Marzia, come out here. I know you've been peeking around the corner.
That's later. The following program contains images of an actual surgical procedure that may be graphic and disturbing. Parents are advised that these images may not be suitable for young children.
I met the health minister of Afghanistan, and she said, listen, I have this case of this little girl in a remote area in Afghanistan. What I learned about her is that she had a gunshot wound to the face, which really took out the internal part of the nasal airway, the sinus area, which is the midface of the face, as well as the globe and the eyeball. I reached out to our sister organization, Global Medical Relief Fund, to help the process of bringing her here.
I am the founder and director of the Global Medical Relief Fund. What we do is we bring children who've been wounded by war from these countries, and we bring them here and we get medical help for them. prosthetics, prosthetic eyes, limbs, and reconstructive surgery. Each child that comes here, we need a guardian. They cannot come alone. Fatima was immediately approved, but the uncle, we had to wait for several months. So in order for the uncle and Fatima to get out of Afghanistan, they had to cross dangerous mountains and bad weather, and it took them a couple of days to get to Kabul. And then once they were there, then I booked the flight. Fatima is truly a little angel. She truly is.
That was Marzia, also known as Fatima, a 6-year-old girl whose family was attacked in Afghanistan. She was very fortunate to survive, but the gunshot caused her to lose her eye, left her unable to breathe properly. In Marzia's story, it tugged at the heartstrings of reconstructive surgeon Dr. Alizadeh, who wanted to help.
So here's the entry site. The path of the bullet probably entered like this. Essentially took out the inside of the nose, the floor of the orbit, the eyeball, and it came out through the temple. So my first step right now is to take down the scar and just see what anatomy is left behind. Looks promising. I'm going to be able to get a combination of cartilage and skin now. It's well hidden and there's no cosmetic deformity to the ear itself. That's why the advantage. We have skin and cartilage that we're going to use for the lining on the inside. Here's the graft. You can see the graft is sort of being parachuted in. This is basically an airway inside, and it's got a splint on the outside. So this is going to slide in on top of our graft. Here's the skin and the cartilage that I'm putting on the floor of the nose. That's what came from the ear. That skin graft requires usually a minimum of 1 week to take. I would like to leave it in for a couple weeks longer because we want to make sure that it really sort of forms a new skin around it.
Well, that was reconstructive surgeon Dr. Alizadeh helping little Marzia after a brutal attack on her family in Afghanistan. He is here with us today. Thank you for being here and for not only what you did for Marzia, but also tell us a little bit about, before we get to Marzia's actual story and surgery, about Mission Restore.
Sure. So Mission Restore is a nonprofit organization that we formed with a group of plastic surgeons. The focus is really to provide training and education for doctors in the developing world that don't have the opportunity that we do in America, having trained here.
Teaching surgeons the skills that you have so that they can take care of
Exactly.
wounded individuals.
In the past, there were groups of doctors from the States going to try to do that work, but that wasn't feasible on a long-term basis. It's far better to teach people in their own countries, teach the surgeons there, so they can continue the work, because we can't be there all the time.
And in the case of little Marzia, let's go show everyone exactly what you did in the operating room, because I think it's important for people to understand structurally the damage that Marzia was dealing with. Because externally, it's obvious that she lost her eye, but otherwise, just looking at this picture, you may not realize what was going on underneath the surface. So show us what the bullet did and the destruction that it wrought.
So the entry side of the bullet was actually in the cheek, on the left cheek. And you can see sort of the path of destruction really, unfortunately, went through the entire part of the face, through the orbit of her face. And if you compare the normal side, where you can see there's actually a bone here that supports the eyeball and the eyeball, this is the airway where the air travels through that allows the breathing. And you can see there's scarring all the way through this path, and the bullet ended up exiting through the temple, fortunately skipping the brain.
And this is a CT scan, a cross-section, as though Marzia is looking straight at you. So let's look at another view and show us some of the damage that you're seeing here.
Yeah, so this is basically, so the CAT scan essentially is taking cuts of the face, and it's as if you're looking up now. You're on the floor looking up through the face, and you can see the nose here. And this is just a little area of airway that's left in her nose, but you can see it's completely blocked off here. And the poor thing, she really was not able to sleep, because every time that she slept, she would close her mouth. She would sort of have to get up because there was no airway going inside.
Because this should be clear.
Totally open.
That dark is an open airway.
Correct.
Obviously, with the tissue there, breathing became difficult. And we're looking at another cross-section view.
Yeah, and so as you follow this back, you can see that it's so much scarring that it's starting to pull the septum, which is the center part of the nose. It's starting to pull it to the side because the entire structure is now being pulled to the side as it healed.
Well, clearly she couldn't breathe, and as she grew, as the nose got bigger, this problem only would have gotten worse with the scar tissue pulling on those structures.
And that's, as you know, and that's one of our concerns was that, as you know, a big part of the facial growth is in the center of the face. So one of our concerns was that because you have so much scarring here, that would actually limit her face. There's a syndrome called a dish face deformity, where the face may grow longer, but it cannot project and grow over time.
For breathing through the mouth all the time, not being able to breathe through the nose.
So you essentially, in some ways, rebuilt those nasal airways so that she could breathe
Exactly.
properly.
So our thinking actually was to go there and reline and sort of create a stable airway for her so she can grow with it.
Well, and of course, everyone probably watching right now is wondering how little Marzia is doing after the surgery. I know you all want to meet her, and we will right after the break. And then later in the show, we're going to talk about how a car accident left one woman in agony years after the fact. You're going to meet her and the doctor who believed he could finally put an end to her pain forever.
Coming up next.
Marzia, come out here. I know you've been peeking around the corner.
Both of you have given this little girl a new life.
And later.
As human beings, we all want to look and feel good about who we are, especially as a 6-year-old. You develop a sense of yourself and who you are. This little girl lost that. So our goal is to return that to normal. You know, we want to restore function and we want to restore form. And in some cases, with cosmetic surgery, you want to go above the norm. And hopefully, a week from now, once she's healed, we'll get to see the result, which is very gratifying.
We've been talking about the incredible story of Marzia, who survived a tragic attack on her family in Afghanistan. We've been talking to the amazing team who worked together to help restore her health. I'd also now like to introduce Alizadeh, who is the founder of the Global Medical Relief Fund and is the person responsible for bringing Marzia here to the United States for this necessary surgery. So kudos to you. And tell us a little bit about what your organization does and how you were able to help out in this.
I founded the charity 15 years ago because of a boy in Bosnia, triple amputee, whose letter of help, he had stepped on a landmine, just happened to fall into my hands. And to fast forward till now, we help children from war-torn and natural disasters countries who have lost limbs and need reconstructive surgeries, eyes. And I have been fortunate enough to partner with such organizations as Mission Restore, the Shriners Children's Hospital, and Noculist, Krishoft. And they put the children back together again. And we've helped about 160 children with about almost 1,000 follow-up visits from 22 countries.
Oh, that's great.
And I think we have someone here who is healing due to your wonderful work. And you all ready to meet this beautiful young girl who is, thank you so much. Marzia, come out here. I know you've been peeking around the corner.
Sweetheart.
You look so cute.
Yeah,
I love the cowboy boots.
That's awesome.
You want to see up there? You see yourself? Yeah, that's you. You look really pretty.
She's all over the
place. You see back there, too?
She's like, me. Oh, my goodness. You have given, both of you have given this little girl a new life, I think. She's just so wonderful.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
She's been great for us.
Yeah,
and
she
she's
truly
really,
has. She truly
like any
has.
child. She's
Yeah.
great.
And Elizabeth, you wrote a book about all, wonderful children all over that you've helped with other doctors just like yourself.
I did. It's about the founding of my charity and the boy that made all this possible, Kenan, who now is 30 years old. And he's like my baby brother. He has lived with me. He finished school. He has a phenomenal job. He drives, he has a beautiful girlfriend. And he's the pulse behind the charity because children look up to him and say if he can do it with one limb, then they can.
And the name of your book?
I'll Stand By You.
I'll Stand By You is
Yeah.
the name of the book. And everyone in our audience is going home with a copy of Alyssa's book, I'll Stand By You. And thank you for not only sharing these stories with us, but for all that you're doing and bringing beautiful Marzia to our show. Thank you for coming, Marzia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you're watching at home, be sure to visit. Thank you. If you're watching at home, you can visit thedoctorstv.com to learn more about how you can help both Mission Restore and the Global Medical Relief Fund and help them in the heroic efforts that they provide. Coming up, back problems certainly aren't easy, but imagine if your back went from pain-free to sheer agony in just a matter of seconds. You're going to see how new surgery may help folks recover. Stick around.
Coming up next.
This is